Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard, brought to you by our sponsor, The Great Game of Business. I'm Lauren Feldman, and I'm here with Gene Marks. Welcome, Gene.
Hey, Lauren. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Doing good. What were you saying before we started recording? What am I, in a bad mood or something? I'm not in a bad mood.
Yeah, no, you seemed a little agitated, a little prickly almost. I don't know, but you said you're not, and I accept that.
No, I'm not. If this is because of, are you trying to like prod me because of last week's Trump verdict? Is that what's going on here?
Wow, I wasn't even going to bring it up. Was there a Trump verdict last week?
So that's what you were getting at. Oh, I see. Okay.
No, you brought it up, Gene.
I brought it up. Okay. By the way, let's go on record of this before we get into the business discussion. I don't know who's listening here that's on the right or the left. This is me as a registered Republican. I just want to say that this was like a court case that went through the New York legal system, that was heard by attorneys and argued by attorneys on both sides, with a judge and a jury, and the jury voted unanimously to convict him on 34 counts. I mean, I don't know what it seems like we went through the legal process in this country. So I don't really buy into the whole sham lawsuit, and the whole case was ridiculous and all that. I don't know. I mean, I don't buy into that. I mean, it seems like it went through the proper channels and process, but I'm sure everybody will yell and scream at me for saying that, but that's what I think.
Well, not me.
Yeah, I know you would agree with it.
As much as I enjoy disagreeing with you, Gene, I just can't find a way to do it on this one.
I do think that the Democrats are out of their minds if they think that this is going to help them in the election. I think it's only going to make Trump more popular, but that's another discussion to have,
All right. That I would disagree with, but that's not what we're here to discuss.
No, we're talking business. Come on.
All right.
And by the way, we can talk Trump and Biden in the future, Lauren, when it comes to business issues,
Hey, sure.
I'm speaking a lot about that, and we should, because this impacts our audience a lot. What are their positions on immigration? What are their positions on tariffs, taxes, regulations? These are big deal things for people that run businesses. So we should definitely put those.
We will do that.
Yeah, we'll put those up on the agenda for sure. Anyway.
All right. For now, Gene, you wrote recently about what's known as JOLTS,
Yes.
JOLTS, the Job Opening and Labor Turnover Survey. Just to make sure, this is not the monthly jobs report that tells us how many jobs have been created in the past month and where unemployment stands, correct?
Yeah, it is not. It is. It's a report that's been running for about 40 years. I mean, it's not new. And it uses a complex formula. It's a survey, so it is. You have to take things with a little bit of grain of salt, but it's been done consistent. There is a methodology to it. It's done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's published every month, and basically, it's in the end, it measures the number of job openings that there are in the economy, and these job openings, again, it's a survey, Lauren, I mean, they call up a lot of employers literally and ask them to report on job openings. And there's a lot of slip between the cup and the lip here. You know what I mean? In the sense that, you're asking a lot of employers, there's a higher percentage of employers that are not responding anymore to these requests. And, people, define job openings in different ways. And the BLS tries to keep it very strict in its definition. You know what I mean? But that doesn't necessarily mean it gets reported that way. But anyway,
it's like a political poll. It's
kind of is. It kind of is. But you know what I've found as an accountant is that even if the methodology is wrong, if it's consistently wrong over a period of time, then you've got a benchmark that still provides valuable information. For example, if you have a calculation that you're doing to say how much of your inventory is obsolete, and say you realize that your calculation has been incorrect, but it's been incorrect for the past 20 years, well, it's because you're comparing this obsolescence against the same calculation month in and month out over 20 years. It's still, from an accountant's point of view, that's actually okay, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy, but it can still provide valuable information. Do you know what I mean?
No, that makes sense. Sure. But tell us what is JOLTS and why should we care about it?
Well, it tells us, it gives us an indication about the demand for jobs, right? So when the pandemic was happening, there were 12.2 million job openings. So, and that was like a historic high. And, that was telling us, and this is also post pandemic as well, like in 2021 and into 2022. And that was like mirroring what everybody was saying, like, oh my God, so many businesses are looking for jobs, looking for employees. That number has fallen to 8.5 million just since March of 2022. So it's a pretty giant fall. It's almost 4 million job openings have gone away. So, it kind of raises eyebrows when you think about it, like, oh man, I mean,
are you convinced that that's a meaningful number? I mean, there's always talk about how some companies keep lots of jobs open, even though they're not really hiring. There are issues involved with that.
No doubt. It gets back to benchmarking, if the calculation is done incorrectly, but it's done consistently, then it's still an okay benchmark. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that I can rely on it. And that was the point of my column in The Hill, that, a lot of it makes sense. I mean, there was a lot of jobs open during pandemic. There was bans and lockdowns and limitations. There was a lot of my own clients in the retail, travel, restaurant industries. I mean, there are
a lot of people quitting jobs, which creates a job opening, right?
Exactly right. And there was the great, migration and, all of that. But, I kind of looked at the numbers, Lauren, and I kind of came down to like, this sort of rule of thumb, and my rule of thumb was that even during, the last recession, the number of job openings versus when you compared it to the number of like total workers in the country, it was around 2%, and now it's about 5%. Okay. So that's like, there's 161 million working age people out there, and there's 8.5 million job openings. So that's about 5%, based on working, people that are actually, say, working. Right. So I looked at my client base and I'm like, 2 to 5%, every one of my clients, if I take an average of a company with 100 employees, I can safely say that my clients with 100 employees are looking for anywhere from 3 to 5 employees, if not more, at any given time right now. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't necessarily mean they might not even have official jobs posted, but like I have one client that's like not happy with their accounting manager, and they haven't started looking officially, but they're keeping their eyes open, like they would replace that employee. You know what I mean? So,
sure.
And it even goes down if you have you have 10 employees. I mean, that's a half an employee that you're looking for. Maybe if you have 20 employees, 5% is one employee. I think most companies with 20 employees, I think they would say like, yeah, if we could find a better person, or we do have an open job for at least one new person, even if it's to replace an existing person, yeah, we can see that happening. So I just feel like the job opening numbers have gotten down to like normalcy. Do you know what I mean? Like they were high during the pandemic. Now, because they're about like 5% of total workers out there, that makes sense to me when I compare that to my clients. And that was the point of the column. I think JOLTS is actually not a bad number. I think it is something that we can look at and rely on. And as long as it's between around that 5% level when the economy is strong, and even if it drops a few points when the economy slows, to me, that's the range that I think is still reasonable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess you're suggesting it means that the labor market has returned to, a more stable position.
Yes.
Obviously, the leverage was with employees for a while. Now it's kind of back where it was before the pandemic.
Yeah, that is exactly right. And when people look at the job openings that existed during the pandemic, it's dropped a lot. People are like, oh my God, it's dropped a lot. I guess the economy is constricting. I'm like, no. It's now returned to a reasonable level that I've been expecting to see. And I think what we've seen historically. So that was the conclusion.
Does this mean anything to your clients? You talk about the position they're in.
They couldn't give a shit. This is just some obscure economic metric that has absolutely no impact on their lives whatsoever.
Let's move to our next topic then.
I just felt like writing about it because I thought it was of interest to me. But no, there's not a single one of my clients who could care less.
Well, I think it's interesting. Um, you also wrote a piece for Forbes in which you updated us on a couple of new capabilities for Microsoft Copilot, the AI, whatever you call it. Are we getting to the point where business owners should be paying attention to this?
Yeah, I did write about Microsoft Copilot. Also, the same week, Google came out with updates to their Gemini AI product for Google Workspace. I got to tell you, Lauren, I know you like hearing about actual real businesses, and sometimes it's fun to talk about my business. For the first time in about 20 years, I'm adding two new products to my business. Like we sell CRM products, right, for them in particular, but I watched and studied and read. I've been so much about AI and Microsoft Copilot and Google Gemini, which, by the way, very early days, long way to go. It's not, it's still not.
I saw some headlines about that.
Yeah, it's still hype over reality. I get all that, but everybody with a brain can see where it's going. You know what I mean? So, and I look at it and I'm like, man, I was showing this like what Google Gemini does, same as Copilot. It's because I have a Google Workspace client, and it's creating emails, and it will do automatic presentations for you, and it will have an AI assistant that's monitoring projects and letting you know when things are falling behind. And I'm just scratching the surface of its capabilities. And this woman that I was showing it to, she's like, "This is unbelievable! Like, we could really use this in our business, but I have no idea where to get started." Because AI is just a feature, Lauren. This is all stuff that Microsoft and Google are putting on their existing products. These are not new products. Copilot, it's Copilot for Office and Gemini for Workspace. These are more features. And with most businesses that I see, they get products, they get software applications. Then as new features come out, many of them tend not to use them because you get set in your ways and you're used to using it the way it is. And you don't want to pay for training or anything more. And, you wind up not using it. And AI could be the same thing, but it's so good and will provide such productivity gains for so many people if they just had somebody to help them set it up and implement it and then train people and then keep everybody, answer their questions and keep them up to speed on all these things that they're doing. They need somebody to do that. So we've added those two products to our product line. I just thought you should know, like, we're going to start selling Copilot and Gemini to our clients as a professional service. And I'm hoping that our clients will either have somebody internally that we can train, or we'll just take it over and make sure that people are using it the right way. You're a perfect example, Lauren. I mean, you're using Office, or what do you use in your business? Office or Google? Google. So there's all these things that you could be doing, and maybe you've seen that these things in action, but you're probably not doing it for a number of reasons. But if I were to say to you, "Hey, Lauren, we'll get you set up so that whatever you're doing right now at 21 Hats, we'll make sure that you're using Gemini when you're doing this stuff, so that you can write emails faster and you can set up your projects that much faster, or whatever we decide to do." And as long as you have somebody holding your hand and showing you what to do, and then you can run with it from there, I think you would really benefit from that, But to do it on your own is tough. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I completely know what you're saying. I haven't felt the need to do that yet. I haven't seen the killer app that's going to make that big a difference in my day-to-day life. And I've played around with ChatGPT a lot, and I haven't found a way to really. I'm just playing. I haven't incorporated that into anything that I actually do. But you're absolutely right. If I saw that, I would be eager to have somebody to hold my hand and walk me through it.
Yeah, you would be, and it's not even just that. It's you're above the fray a little bit, because you're covering this, you research this, you're writing about this stuff. You want to update your audience, so you're looking into this stuff even harder than the typical business owner does. Do you know what I mean? Who's busy doing other things. Do you know what I mean? And even you that's doing it, you're like, well, I really haven't found what how I would be using it or how I would apply. And I would challenge you to say, like, well, if you spent like an hour with one of my guys, I bet you we can go through and say, like, hey, Lauren, if you did these 3 things in Gemini, it would make a big difference to your day. And then you'd be like, okay. And then your next question is, okay, how do I get started? So Anyway, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. I think Gemini and I think Copilot are going to be providing a lot of opportunities for technology people to provide services to their clients to get businesses to use them the right way. Because with all of this hype around around this stuff, there's still just features that are being added to the applications. One other thing I want to mention is you brought up what I wrote about in Forbes. So Microsoft released some changes to Copilot. They're introducing Copilot functions in Windows 11. One of them is, you've seen this Windows recall. Have you seen this?
I read that in your piece, and I was about to bring that up because I think that might be another reason that some people are slow to dive in.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people are nervous about it. Windows recall, everyone is where Microsoft is using its Copilot, AI to basically watch and record everything you're doing. I mean, taking images of everything as it's happening real time, everywhere you're at, store it in the cloud as well as some of it locally. So that when you come, you have a question, where did I file? You just ask your computer, where did I file this document, or where can I find this information, or what did I say in this email, or how can I configure my laptop to do, to save power, or just do it for me. That's the point of Windows Recall, is that it's supposed to be, it's watching everything that you do, and it's just remembering everything that you do, so that you can always go back and ask it questions when you don't remember. But some people are feeling a little concerned about that because who knows what it's what. Now you can turn it off, but you got to go pretty deep down in the configuration and the settings of Windows to turn it off. But I kind of think that this is like just the new normal, Lauren. I mean, this is what we can expect to see from all technology, is just watching us very closely with the intention of helping us. And God knows where that's going to lead.
Gene, is your concern primarily with it watching you, or should we be thinking about owners who will be using it to watch their employees? And is that a whole nother issue?
All of it. Yeah, all of it. You know what I mean? Employees are going to have a problem with it as well. And, and then people doing stuff that's not sufficient for work. You know what I mean? Like that's, an issue. So they're going to have to be concerned about what's being watched, what's being recorded. And again, Microsoft is storing it somewhere, and I'm sure it's all private and secure. So because they say it is, so we're all fine. So these are going to be issues that we're going to have to grapple with. And the question is, if you're running a business, do you now have to spend extra time with your IT people to configure everybody's devices to turn this off? And then Microsoft's next update turns it back on again. Like it's going to create more headaches for us and create more problems rather than solve them. So that will be an interesting thing to see over the next couple of years as we get used to this AI stuff,
Well, you wrote about that. And then the next thing you wrote about is Copilot's ability to actually run meetings. For real?
Yeah, I mean, it is. And again, it's an AI assistant. And again, Gemini is doing the exact same thing. So, you set up a separate employee that's like an AI employee. And it goes on to meetings on your behalf, Lauren, and it listens in on the meeting. It based on what's going on. If you've given it instructions in advance, it will make suggestions or communicate things that you wanted covered in advance. It's recording the meeting. It will then provide a summary of the meeting to everybody, and then as tasks are created, like people assign things to each other. It automatically will update your Outlook with new tasks, which I'm sure your colleagues won't abuse too much, but it will do all of that automatically. On Google's side, you set up, if you have projects that you configure on the Gemini side, you set up a Gemini, like an AI assistant, to monitor your projects and alert everybody if something's falling behind, or if some email wasn't sent, or if some deadline is coming up. As well as doing actions on its own based on project milestones. So all of that is here. And by the way, as we're talking about this now, it's June of 2024. It's just in the infancy. Do you know what I mean, Lauren? I mean, it's like we're talking about a newborn baby saying like, this kid is going to change the world. It's like, well, the kid's got to grow up a little bit and go to college and become an adult first before it makes sense. But you see where it's all going. And
well, let me ask you this. I wonder if I read too much into what you wrote. I think we've all gotten used to the idea. Anybody who attends a Zoom meeting has gotten used to the idea that some people are sending a bot there to attend the meeting for them, just to attend, record, keep track of what happens, know if any tasks are assigned to you, as you just said. But I think you're suggesting the Copilot can now run the meeting. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, what it's doing is that it's not just recording it. Again, it is making suggestions. It is responding based on instructions that you've given it, in advance to things that come up during the meeting. And again, like any meeting manager, it's scheduling tasks and activities. It's doing follow-up.
Will it tell people to stop looking at their phone or chewing loudly or
that I don't know.
Or scold people if they haven't completed a task they were supposed to deliver at this meeting?
That the task part of it could be something in the future, but as far as looking at the phone or being distracted, I'm not quite sure that's a function for it right now.
Okay. Well, along those lines, there was a story. This one you did not write. It ran in the New York Times last week, and it suggested that AI can not just run meetings, but perhaps entire businesses. In fact, it suggested that AI is now capable of serving as a CEO, and that some companies are already trying this out. And the idea is kind of that, I guess the way it put it was, we're used to the idea that AI has certain capabilities and it makes sense to replace certain types of employees with a machine that can do everything more efficiently. And this story laid out these particular employees we're talking about analyze new markets and discern trends, both tasks a computer could do more efficiently. They spend much of their time communicating with colleagues. That's a laborious activity that is being automated with voice and image generators. Sometimes they make difficult decisions, and who's better at being dispassionate than a machine? And most importantly, these jobs, we're talking about CEO jobs, are very well paid, which means the cost of savings of eliminating them is considerable. What did you make of this article, Gene?
I think it is just such a bunch of clickbait bullshit. When I see stuff like this, it's like it's the New York Times trying to create stories out of thin air on a hot topic, so people will continue clicking onto their site. The headline to this story, everybody, is if AI can do your job, maybe it can also replace your CEO, right? And then replace the CEO with a robot. What is this world coming to, Lauren? This is unbelievable. I mean, I understand, certain decisions can be made using, AI in the future. I mean, again, not now. That's for darn sure. But as AI gets trained and more intelligent, sure, it can make certain management decisions or make suggestions for decisions, but it's not going to replace your CEO. It's not going to replace. Organizations need people. I mean, and you can't have people taking orders from a bot. It's just not. It just doesn't make sense to me. But people miss about AI. It is a very powerful productivity tool. So good CEOs will have AI assistants that will be able to advise them and guide them to make the right decisions. But can you imagine like a fucking shareholder meeting where you've got a laptop up on the stage answering questions from shareholders? I mean, it's just such clickbait when I see articles like that. But listen, it's just, what can I tell you?
I don't think it was meant to literally suggest that you, Gene Marks, need to be worried about losing your job
Maybe
anytime
it can
soon.
also replace your CEO, it says, right? Chief executives are vulnerable.
I think it was looking into the future a bit and suggesting that some of the things that CEOs do could be done better by a machine. And certainly that is true, right?
If I was writing the article, it would be the future CEO will be that much better because they will be assisted by machines,
right.
So, but not replacing the CEO. I think that is. So listen, for everybody that's, running businesses listening to this, AI is not replacing you or anybody else anytime soon. But man, I'm telling you, it continues to be and will be a powerful asset in your business to help you and your existing employees to do stuff much, much faster and more productively, which is great. But it's not going to replace senior management. That's ridiculous.
Well, just to be sure, I want to stress right now that if you do get replaced, Gene, you do still have to come and record this podcast with me. You cannot send a bot.
Yeah,
all right.
It's just not going to happen. And I just want to be clear. And this New York Times article is bullshit. And you know what? I am offended that you even brought this up on this podcast and wanted to talk about it more.
Gene.
You're going to have to do a much good job.
You're the AI guy. You're the one who is in the trenches checking this stuff out. And that's why I brought it to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have them tell you, I'm changing. It's funny when I speak a lot to industry groups, AI is going to become a workplace topic is how I look at it. You know, there are a lot of HR and workplace specialists out there that advise companies on running better workplaces. And I think that's what AI is going to be all about. Like, how do we get our people to work better and more productively and faster? How do we get more done with the same team? You know, I think those are what business owners, that's what business owners are really interested in AI about, is how can they use it for their existing people, not to replace themselves or management. It's just, I don't see that ever happening.
So we're on for next week?
Are we on for next week? Yes, we're on for next week.
You'll still be good. All right. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, The Chicago Daily Herald, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. This episode was brought to you by The Great Game of Business, which helps businesses use an open book management system to help build healthier companies. You can learn more at greatgame.com. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Have a great week, everybody.